Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! And today I have for you a corner pocket card. This is a very simple card to put together, but it has a design that it's different from your regular cards. I love designs that are easy, don't require a lot of supplies, but can be used for any occasion. Quick and easy makes my life so much simpler. So I wanted to share this with you today. So the first thing you will need is a piece of cardstock that is 4 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/2 inches tall. This is 1/4 of a sheet of 8 1/2 by 11 cardstock. And to go with it, a piece of designer series paper that is 5 1/4 by 4. And these two we're going to layer together. Now, for my card today, I chose to use the same designer series paper twice and then use a second design for another part of the card I'll tell you about in a minute. You can use 3 separate pieces, up to you. I'll get into that a little bit more later. So, I'm going to take some Stampin' Seal Plus and just attach my designer series paper. For most of the card, I am using my Stampin' Seal Plus, which is my favorite adhesive, but I am going to use glue for a couple pieces. And I'll show you why in just a minute. Now the next step is to take 2 squares. You need a square of the designer series paper that is 3 1/4 inches square, and then a piece of cardstock that is 3 1/2 inch square, which apparently has walked off my work table. So, never fear, it's okay. I'm going to take my trimmer, and you're going to do the same thing for your 3 1/4 inch square of designer series paper and your 3 1/2 inch square of cardstock. Same technique. So I'll just show you once with my 3 1/4 inch square. The easiest way to cut a square into 2 triangles is to line it up like a diamond on your paper trimmer and line the points up in your cutting tray, your cutting valley. I never know what to call that. But if you line it up point to point, when you slide your cutting blade up, then you're left with 2 pieces. So you're going to do this for your 3 1/4 inch square and your 3 1/2 inch square. And you will have an extra, so you can make another card or simply put it to the side for another project. And I did have another piece handy from my earlier card. So this is the 3 1/2 inch square cut diagonally. I'm going to layer these together. Now this is one piece that I'm going to use glue on, and I could use adhesive. I did that on most of my samples, but it's important that you get all the way to the edges so these corners stick. So I'm going to take some Tombow liquid glue, and I don't need a lot, and I'm just going to trace the edges first to make sure I get enough glue in the corners. Like I said, not a lot. You don't want to give it a glue bath. I like to hold my glue tip right on my paper when I'm gluing. And so I'm going to layer these together. You'll have a very narrow border. What I like to do is anchor my corner first down here so I can tell where my border is, and then press the rest down. If you use too much glue, it'll start seeping out the edges, and you'll also have a lot of movement with your designer series paper, so don't go too heavy-handed on the glue. Now the other part where I like to use the glue, I'll show you in 1 minute. First, before I glue this pocket on my card, I'm going to stamp on it. I'm just going to add a little message. Now, if you have a piece of designer series paper, say for example like this, that is too busy, that would swallow up a sentiment, don't worry. You can skip the stamping step, and then I'll show you some samples where I have another option for you. I am all about options in card making. So I am simply going to stamp here on the front of my card. This is from the Strong and Beautiful stamp set that we have in our current catalog. If you are not currently working with a demonstrator and would like a current catalog or a new catalog or have any questions, please feel free to check out my website. I'm always happy to help. So now that I've got my sentiments stamped on my pocket, this is where I'm also going to use glue. However, I'm not going to glue all over because it wouldn't be a pocket. I'm going to put glue on the short sides only. Again, a fine line along the edge, so this creates the pocket effect of the card. And since this glue sets rather quickly, it will be ready to go by the time I am done stamping and creating the inside of the card. Now, when you put your card together, you can either add your pocket flush with the corner here, or you can set it a little bit to the inside, which is what I'm going to do now. It just gives you a little bit of a different look. And I found in making some samples that I like this inlaid look a little bit better. So I'm just going to press my pocket down along the edges. I left this long edge with no glue, so it's ready to form my pocket. And I'm just going to set this to the side until I'm ready to put my card inside. Now, to make the inside of my card, I have a piece of designer series paper that is 3 by 8. I also have a piece of cardstock that I'm going to use to back this card, which is 3 1/4 inches wide by 4 1/4 inches tall. When I take my paper, which is 3 by 8, what I'm going to do is score it at 4 inches on the long side, so in half. But remember, this is designer series paper, so it's thinner than cardstock. When I score it, I'm going to be very gentle. I'm not going to push down like I would tend to do with a scoring tool, because I would tear right through the paper. But a light score will give me just enough of a fold line that I can see where to fold my paper in half. And this creates my little interior card. Now, if you have paper with direction to it, particularly on the inside, you want to just take a look at it now, because that'll determine which side of the paper you glue down. This paper, it doesn't matter so much because the design is just an all-over design, but since I want this to be the outside and I'm going to glue it down, if I were to open the card and I had, say, Christmas trees upside down, that would look a little silly. So if you have that, just flip it over and that should eliminate the problem. But just be mindful of that when you are assembling your card. So I'm going to add more Stampin' Seal Plus to the card that I'm creating here, my miniature card. And I'm simply going to layer that on my piece of cardstock. And now this is ready to get a sentiment piece on the inside. So I have a piece of basic white that is 2 3/4 inches wide by 3 3/4 inches tall. Once I stamp on it and glue it inside, it's going to fit perfectly here on the inside of the card. It leaves me enough room for a small sentiment and design and a message as well. And since Mother's Day is coming quickly, I'm going to make a Mother's Day card. I have my Stampin' Pierce mat because the stamps I'm using now are photopolymer. There are clear stamps, and so I need just a little bit of a cushion underneath to get a good impression. And in keeping with the colors that I used for the front of the card, I am using Blackberry Bliss to stamp the Happy Mother's Day. This is from our Timeless Tulips stamp set that is retiring at the end of April. And now I'm going to use Blushing Bride. This is a beautiful pale pink. And I'm going to add a floral image to the bottom. Now, you can skip the image inside if you want. You can stamp it to the left, to the right, to the center. Totally up to you. I'm going to stamp mine to the center. And then while I give this just a second to dry, even though it really doesn't need to. It dries very quickly with our dye-based inks. I wanted to show you one of the most beautiful images from this art gallery stamp set. It is a two-piece stamp set. So we have a larger floral image and then the detail or accent stamp. So to start, I'm going to go back to my Blushing Bride and stamp the large overall floral image, which is pretty in itself. Now you can add tone on tone for your color, but I wanted to show you how a pop of color on this totally changes the look. This is my favorite stamp from this set because of the variety of color combinations you can use with this. So now I have Poppy Parade on my accent stamp. I can line it up since it's photopolymer and I can see what I'm doing. And then I have a beautiful floral design that really pops off the page at you. And I just love it. And it's so simple. 2 stamps, 2 ink colors, and look at that beautiful image. So my envelope is ready to go. And now back to my card. There's my base. My pocket is glued and ready to go. I'm just going to bring over the start to my card, bring over my Stamp and Seal Plus, and use it on the back of my white insert. Layer this up. And just like that, my inside card is done. Into the pocket it goes. And then it pairs with this beautiful envelope. So as I said at the beginning, a very simple technique using minimal supplies, but yet what a gorgeous design this is. But I wanted to show you, you're not limited to just plain cardstock designer series paper. You can embellish a little bit. So, for example, you can take the same card design and simply tie a piece of ribbon around the designer series paper. Do it gently because, again, this is paper and could rip if you pull too hard on your ribbon. But a simple piece of ribbon gives the card a completely different look. I did make a couple other samples to show. For this one, I wanted to show you first the difference between keeping the pocket flush. Hopefully you can see that here. Versus keeping the pocket a little bit inset on the card. So either way works very well. And again, if you don't have designer series paper you can stamp directly on, you can take your sentiment, stamp it on a strip of cardstock and make it a banner, a small shape, whatever you like. Put it on dimensionals and pop it right there on the front of your card. And then for this card, again, I used the ribbon effect. I found I really liked the ribbon. For this one, I tied a bow and made this a Mother's Day card, even though ice cream and bright colored stripes might not be your traditional Mother's Day card. Some people like outside the box. So there is that example. And again, I wanted to show you just how you can change up the same design with a simple touch. So here is the card, just as I made it originally, paper, cardstock. I popped my sentiment here on the front, but I can change the look by simply tying a knot of ribbon around the card or tying a bow. So this is the same card 3 different ways, all beautiful. So lots of options you have. And again, for any occasion, this design is beautiful, so I put together a quick holiday card. This one has very bright designer series paper. I stamped my sentiment here, and I added a little bit of bling, just to dress it up a little. And then again, tied my knot of ribbon at the front, and have my sentiment inside. So there you have a quick and simple corner pocket card that you can use for any occasion. I would love it if you would subscribe to this YouTube channel, Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I post crafting videos here twice a week. And you are more than welcome to hop over to Facebook as well and find me at The Faithful Stamper. I do live videos on Mondays and Fridays, and I post other projects and ideas there as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the card. Happy crafting!